Well, hello, ladies. Welcome back to the 28-day Fearless Woman of Faith Speaker Challenge. This is all about helping you to become who God has called you to be able to be a voice of influence, whatever mountain He has called you to, whether it be in the home, whether it be in the education arena and the government, whether it be on the streets, ministering to people, in the church, wherever it is, wherever you find yourself, in the grocery store, that you'd be able to step into your space of where God has given you influence and be a fearless woman of faith and communicate whatever it is He puts on your heart and the message that is meant to reach the people that you are called to impact. And today is another beautiful day for you to experience and to hear from a woman of faith across the globe, in Australia, in another country. But you're going to hear all about her, and she has got some real gold nuggets for you to be able to overcome those hesitancies, those fears of you going visible, and even break down some of those mindsets that you might have about being seen and being heard on platforms like this or in media outlets. Like, let's get over that, women. You are called to be a light in the world, a city on a hill. And so today you're going to learn how to practically do that. So let me introduce you to my friend, Rachel Reva. Rachel is a PR consultant. She's an author and a founder of Life on Her Terms Media, and recently launched Publicize Yourself Academy. She worked in the media industry for 10 years as a news publicist and PR manager. Her career has spanned television, health policy, and election campaigns, both in Australia and the United Kingdom. Her first book, Grit, Grace, and Hustle, was published in early 2021. Born in Georgia, United States, Rachel has lived in the UK and now resides in Australia with her husband and son. You can hear Rachel's coaching inspiration series, Coffee and Faith, every Tuesday on Rima Radio, FM radio. So with my pleasure to welcome to the stage, Rachel. Hello, Rachel.
Hello, Lisa. Thank you so much for the beautiful introduction. Guys, Lisa, I'm just going to share a bit of the behind the scenes. She just gave me the most beautiful prayer because I shared with her. I was like, I haven't had my coffee yet. And she was like, we'll just pray into that. And so God has given me the best caffeination that I could ever have. So anyway, I'm so thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome, Rachel. And so for those who don't know, Rachel is in Australia. So it is 7 a.m. in the morning, people. So let's show some love in the comments to Rachel right now. Just give her some fire emojis, some hearts, because this takes commitment and just a desire to pass on to you what God has deposited to her and helped form in her life to be able to share. So I'd love it if you would let me know in the comments where you're joining us from, whether it be live or the replay. And as always, throughout our conversation, if there's questions come up, just pop them in the comments, as well as if there's things that the Holy Spirit is highlighting to you, resonating with you, just really speaking to you, pop that in the comments so we can celebrate with you. Is that okay if we celebrate each other, ladies?
Yes. Amen to that.
We need to get good at celebrating each other. So, ladies, I would love it, Rachel, if you would share with our audience today a little bit of the backdrop of how you came to do what you're doing today.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you for the lovely intro. So as Lisa shared, I have a background in publicity. Obviously, I am American, but I do live in Australia. A bit of my backstory, I'll just share to give some context. So I grew up in a really small town in a place called Milledgeville, Georgia. And when I was 12, my father died quite suddenly, left my mother a widow with young girls. And all I can say is that that tragedy, that loss really just showed God in his divine ways, because it sounds crazy, but all the way back then, my mother met this man on the internet in 1999, and he lived in a place called Australia, and they ended up meeting and getting married, and they have been married for 20 plus years, and he took on my mother and all of us, and it's a joke. He was a bachelor. I mean, he took us all in. We put lace up in the house. He had he had nothing. He was just like completely inundated by these women. But that's kind of the backstory in terms of how did I get here and why I'm living in all these different places. I just want to say that as a piece of encouragement for any woman who was going through a valley. So to be honest, like publicity is part of my career, but my story started out of something that was really, really hard. And but I was able to see, and I can certainly see now, 20 years later, how God has used those moments in our life. And no matter what has happened, no matter what you have lost, I promise you, there's a divine direction He has for you. So I can say now. So anyway, I went to school, went to university, and I was always interested in the media. I was always interested in storytelling. I loved watching Barbara Walters, Oprah, like especially women telling stories. That fascinated me because I didn't know it at the time. There wasn't that many of them, like not in the national prime time. Anyway, so I studied media. I ended up getting a job working for a health lobbying organization called the Australian Medical Association, which was really fun and interesting. But then I started working on TV. As a news publicist, I dealt with a lot of crises. I promoted programs. I worked with TV talent, so hosts of news programs. And I think I always thought I'd be the journalist. That's what I wanted to do. But God positioned me to be behind the scenes because that is where I learned everything. I learned how to be a great journalist, amazing copywriting. I learned how to create a good headline. I learned what was worthy of news and what wasn't. I learned what made good talent, people who completely ruined it and would never be invited again, and those who had their breakthrough moment of this person's good talent, that they may be the next, prime minister or president one day. We need to keep an eye on them. So, and I also got to learn humility, a lack of humility, what real leadership looks like, and the people, the icons that a lot of people celebrated. I was very fortunate to see the behind the scenes of the cost of what that was to get to that level, and B, I guess just the reality of the behind the scenes. And it was incredible because what I didn't realize was God was positioning me to be this in these circles of influence, because I would say to women, I'm like, don't come to me if you want to be famous. Come to me if you want to be of influence.
Wow.
Two completely different things. God is creating His women to be of influence. And you're influential whether you're in a home with your child, but also these positions that we have, we are not to just, it's not just a side hustle. It's not just a little job that you have. It is something so powerful. And the rooms that I have been able to go in, and I don't say this out of arrogance, I say this out of only God, this little Southern girl from Georgia, who was I to be in the room where decisions were being made about how are we going to respond to a national crisis? That's, and people come to you and go, what do you think about that? And I can say, because I understand, particularly as a woman, how we dismiss ourselves so easily. And I've seen that in myself, and I've seen that in women, even in who are at the top of how they question themselves. So I want to say one thing: you're not alone in questioning yourself. You're not the only one. I've seen women at the start of their career. I've seen women who have been doing it for 20 years, and they're constantly questioning themselves. And really, that should kind of give us freedom. Okay.
That's
because,
so good.
and it is true. So I can honestly say, because I've seen firsthand that imposter syndrome, I don't ever hear men talking about imposter syndrome, but I can honestly say that everyone doubts themselves at some point. That's called being human. All right. So I'm not going to sit here and say that I never have those moments. I have them all the time. I had it for a few minutes while I was doing my makeup going, is this really a good idea? What do I have to say? I have those moments regularly, but they do become less and less the more that you take confident action. And B, I know now how to not take it so seriously. It's like that annoying relative at a family event. You go, look, I hear you. Okay. You're here, but I don't have to take you seriously. Okay. I don't have to take you seriously. So I hope that's a bit helpful. And so I ended up starting my business while I was working full time, working for the NHS in London. I did that kind of as a side hustle because I could see that there was amazing possibility in the online coaching space, but also in the online business space. I really wanted to create something, for myself, but I really felt God calling me to serve women. And I wasn't sure what that looked like, but it eventually kind of came back to a version of publicity, but really helping women, communicate their message in a confident way and breaking through those visibility barriers and going, you know what, I actually can do this. I can step out now. I don't have to get another degree or certificate or wait for a number in my bank. I don't have to wait for anything else. And no one has to No one has to anoint me because I have been anointed. I am God's daughter. I'm already anointed. I have it all inside of me. And we are the ones holding ourselves back. And I'll tell you one story, if you don't mind. I'm from the South, so all we do, we tell our stories.
Go for it, girl.
Okay. So I'd gotten this job, it was a good job, and it was a God provision as a communications manager at the NHS, in the NHS. And we were doing a induction day, and it was like an induction week. And I gotta be honest, it was like one of the most boring days of my life. I was sitting there going, and I looked around and everyone was bored. It wasn't just me, but it was just that one of those things you had to be. And I remember thinking, I'm not enjoying this. Is this what my life is going to forever look like? And I just want to share this with you guys. I'd always had a dream in my head of one day I'll be featured in the Huffington Post. One day I will write for the Huffington Post. And this is going back 8 years ago. And I'd written something and I'd said, one day I'll pitch that to them. This is what I'd already written something, but I had convinced myself in my head, and I'm a publicist, guys. I knew how this worked. And I thought, yeah, but I'm not a writer yet. This is the belief I had. But when I'm a real writer, maybe when I've written my book, then I'll start pitching. This is how and then this one day something happened. I was so bored. The pain was so real of boredom. And I thought, well, Rachel, you have nothing to lose, and you have days, and you have a laptop. And I'd heard that Arianna Huffington, who was the founder of the Huffington Post at the time, she'd opened up this contributor platform and said, I want 1 million people to write for the Huffington Post. Email me personally. And so I got her email. It wasn't that hard, guys. I just Googled it. And I emailed her. And by the way, anyway, part of the pitch, I'd kind of mentioned her as an inspiration in there. Keep it there if you're writing about somebody. And I just said, hey, I think this would be good for your, interesting for your audience. And I didn't have anything to talk about except it was like 5 things more important in your career. Because that's all I could talk about. That's all I really knew about. I knew my career, but I also had, some lessons in burnout and that type of thing. It wasn't the Nobel Peace Prize. It was just something I felt kind of, was interesting. Within 24 hours, I got a response back from Arianna Huffington. Yes, we would love to feature this. And all of a sudden, I'm writing for the Huffington Post. Nothing had changed in my life. Nothing had changed in my circumstance. I didn't even think of a business at that stage. I didn't have a mailing list. I had nothing. But it changed everything for me because all of a sudden I saw what was possible.
Wow.
Because all of a sudden, and then what the most hilarious thing is, today I'm writing for the Huffington Post. People come out of the woodworks. I'm so proud of Rachel. And I'm like, you don't even talk to me. And yet, because people see you differently, and that A is the power of media, and B, that is the power of you stepping out. So you have no idea. So that is where everything started for me, because I decided one day the pain was enough of boredom to go, I have nothing to lose. I'll just send this pitch and see what happens. And within 24 hours, I'm a contributor for the Huffington Post. And there's another lesson in this, ladies. When there's a little intuition here, go, maybe I should just do this. There's a divine timing to that you cannot mess with. Because what happened a month later, she closed that platform. And she said, I'm leaving the Huffington Post. If I had waited, I would not have been able to get in the Huffington Post at that day, at that time, in that easy way. Doesn't mean it wouldn't have happened, but God has that divine time for every one of you. And that's why it's so important that we listen to the Holy Spirit.
That is so good. I mean, there's so many layers of conversation we can go off from there, but I love the fact that, you know what, I've got nothing to lose, right? And listening to that inner voice. And I think this is sometimes the problem is that we edit that and we listen to the other voice and say, oh, but, but, and who's going to listen to you and all those things. But when it comes down to it, it's like, if God is pulling on you, then he's going to give you what you need as you step into that. And so I love that story because anyone can do that, Rachel.
Yes. It's so true. Anyone can do it. And can I say, I think people think, oh, you're a publicist, you knew how it worked. I probably had more visibility blockers than anyone because I was the behind the scenes girl. We were never, I would say never to be seen, but you're doing your job by elevating other people. The idea of me coming out there and talking about things, it was totally different to the career trajectory I'd been on. And it was really terrifying for me because that whole thing of what are they going to say? Are people going to think I'm trying? Like, I dealt with some of the best journalists in the industry. somebody. So for them to see Rachel's little blog of like, what is she doing now? I don't understand. Like, okay, she's a writer now. Sure. Okay. And I had to get over that, but I didn't get over it straight away. I got over it piece by piece, interview by interview, publish by publish, like logo by logo. And I can honestly say now I'm more focused on the results that I get and the impact that has versus what are people going to think of me? Because I think I've also learned the people that there's very few people who actually care. And the ones that I care about what they think, they are not my people. They are not my people. I am here for the woman that messages me and said, I saw that piece you wrote and it really helped me during a difficult time. Or, oh my gosh, I didn't know this. Like, I don't love sharing all my stories of vulnerability, but I know how important it is because I don't want anyone to look at me and dismiss me because they think I've had it easy or I haven't had challenge or I don't have the same mindset things that they do. I've had it all. And, God has given me, there's been some things that have happened in our life, but God has given me the most incredible doors at the same time. So I've chosen to walk through those doors, with my hands shaking and everything. So just from it's so true what you said, with women, it's like, this could be anyone. And so I'll just give a couple of mindset pieces here. Why not you? And why not now? So if I said to a woman, it's like, gosh, you could really get this in the media. Most people go, but why me? That's the first thing that usually comes. But why would they want to publish me? Why would they be interested in what I have to say? Why not you? Honestly, why not you? What is it that holds you back? And I can guarantee you the thing that you're so nervous about people finding out about sharing is usually the thing that's going to give people the most freedom. It usually is, but you don't even have to start there. Start with what you do know. Start with where you're at. You don't have to share every piece of your story. Share the thing that you know for sure can help somebody. And it's really just being able to go and being okay with being uncomfortable. It's always awkward before it's elegant. The first time, if you ever go on my YouTube channel, I leave up the first video I recorded just as a humility thing for me because it's so like, I didn't know where to look. The voice was bad. And I got feedback saying as such as well, by the way. People have no problem giving you feedback, It's so easy when you're not the one on video. And I remember, she was like, you weren't looking at the camera. Your voice was this. And I was like, have you ever done a video? Like, why are you reaching out to me and giving this feedback? But I keep it on there because it's a process of refining. Please don't judge me. No one's going to judge you the first time, but you've got to step out. I think the hardest part is making the decision to step out and continuing to do it because you're going to get a lot of rejection. Let me just be real with you. There will be a lot of rejection. But if you constantly come back to your identity in Christ, which is, I am favored. I am a daughter of the King. I want you to know something. Royalty never announces themselves. They walk in and people see them.
That's good.
That's really good. Well, I lived in the UK for 5 years and I did become a little bit royal. So at first I was like, oh, they're whatever. And then I was like, oh my goodness, these are amazing. Because I have to say the attitude and the way they carried themselves, they never had to announce their presence. The confidence that you have when you know you are a royal identity, we all have that within us. But what we have done is we put on top of that these human comments or these mindsets and these beliefs, and they are lies from Satan. They are just, the process of being human, but you are not just human. You have a supernatural guidance inside of you. And if we honestly live from that place, and all that means is in the mornings before I scroll social media, I either go to my Pinterest page that has all my faith content, or I go to my Bible and I make sure that is filling me up before anything of the world can.
It's so good. It's so good. I love what you said. It has to be awkward. It's often awkward before elegant. I love that phrase. We need to put that out there and put
that came from one of my first mentors, because I think I put this perfectionist pressure on myself. And I know a lot of women do that. I do like to show up a certain way, but you will not be perfect. And even when it is perfect, it's not nothing. There's no such thing. It's a lie. And so obviously we want to be excellent and whatever, but start where you're at. If you want to run a marathon, you've never done it before, you're not going to do great those first few runs. I can guarantee it. So we need and I have to put that mindset on myself. Even when I became a mother, I felt like I was a miserable failure. I really did. And then I was like, hold on, Rachel. The first time you wrote a press release, was it good? Probably not. It needed some refining. Stop putting that pressure on yourself to be perfect, because that's just another way of sabotaging yourself, of holding yourself back. Well, I can't do it unless I say, yes, you can. Yes,
That's
you
so
can. If you see enough women out there, and if you do not, and this is the thing that this is, most people are, they're driven to action by either fear of failure or or the idea of I want to live in this, or the joy of what's next. But my fear is, I'm like, I don't want to see someone who is way less experienced than me owning this space because I was too afraid to step out. And that is what is really holding us back. And I've spoken to so many women like, I mentored her and now she's doing this. And I'm like, yeah, so she decided to step into it. And that's okay. But
yeah.
you can do it now. I don't want every woman, like you were saying before, every woman, God has created a stage just for you. And it does not exclude other women. It does not mean no one else gets it. It is a stage that has been created just for you, for the mission that you have, for the message that you have, for the experience and the expertise that you have. And I want you to know, whether you have expertise in something or whether you just have a story that can help people, both are valid, and the media wants to hear from both of them.
That's so good. So, Rachel, is this what kind of, when women, because I hear this a lot, especially from Kingdom women, it's like, well, I don't want to be too visible. And there's this mindset, I think, that comes from a religious mindset of we don't want to draw too much attention to ourselves. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, that is such a great question. Thank you for bringing that up. Working with Kingdom women is it's harder. It's harder because there is this religious church mindset that has been put on us. And if you look at the Proverbs 31 ladies, I had a completely different mindset of who she was until I became a businesswoman. And then I read it again. I was like, oh, I just imagined her sitting there knitting and, her lamp was lit. And they said, because, she made sure she took care of her family. Actually, ladies, this woman was an entrepreneur. She took care of her family. She delegated. She dressed well. She took care of herself. People knew her at the gates as much as they knew her husband. And she knew how to lead a home. She knew how to make sure her people were taken care of. But she also went out and negotiated for vineyards. So first things first, this mindset we have of we can't get too visible. I don't want to say I don't know where it came from. We can say it's a lie from Satan. I don't know why. It's just not helping. It's not true. And and I think there's this false modesty that comes into it. And it's just another layer of fear. And I think because in the church, women were the ones serving, we were the ones behind the scenes, we were this and that. And, God, if you honestly look at the Bible, and if you look at how Jesus dealt with women, and if you also look at the women who actually helped the disciples, there were some wealthy women in there who helped the ministry, who helped Jesus in his ministry. We are not, God wants you to be visible. That's what I want to say. God wants you to be visible. That is the truth. He is not saying you need to be behind the scenes. If that's where you're called, fine. But even behind the scenes, you have something to say. You have a place of influence. And I'll say this, just in terms of, Kingdom women, there are so many media platforms, faith platforms included, that still need to hear from you. And so you can only help people in your circle with your message if you're not willing to get more visible. What I love about how we're connecting right now is how many people are hearing from you and from me right now. We get to scale and impact in a whole new way. Do not ignore it. And if I may say, calling from one of the great icons of, Billy Graham, he got so heavily criticized. It was in the 60s because he was using media. And he said, I think as disciples, we are called to use every platform we have, every resource that we have to get his word out there. And your ministry is doing that. Your business is your ministry. And I struggled with that, if I'm honest, because I was like, look, I'm a Christian. I don't really want to talk about it. Like, I just want to help women with this. I struggled with all of that. But the truth is, it was Christian women who kept coming to me. I started was like, oh, okay. So it's the Christian. Okay. I just kind of started listening to the whispers of who was attracted to my message. And the other thing, ladies, you're not going to know straight away what your message is. You're not. And it's only through a process of keep showing up. If you go and look at my old content just to humor yourself. And you can see that I was talking about career stuff. I was talking about mindset and confidence. You got to stay in the game long enough to where your lane becomes clear, because it's not always clear at first. And that's okay. It is a journey. It is a long game. And so please don't buy into the lies and the bravado that overnight you'll have this. That is so rare and so unusual. And I can honestly say the people that I've studied that have experienced the real longevity of success that, perhaps we're looking for, it didn't happen overnight. And God will bless anything that you give him. But what I notice with most women is they'll do a little bit and then they'll keep the rest back. And what does that mean? live video seems to be really confronting for a lot of women. And I do understand that. But this is another digital media platform. And not even stepping into that, it's just, I believe it's unwise, because you're just making life and business much harder, and you will never scale if you don't engage with the media. And you can start, I don't say start small, but you can start where you're at. And it doesn't, you can start with local media, you can start with blogs, you can start with doing live video with a business best friend on Instagram or something like that. But now was the time that you have all the opportunity in the world to get your message out there in an organic and an authentic way. And you can speak and you can call out the people that God has called you to work with. I'll say this, I recently had a piece published in a national publication, and it was a bit of a personal experience. I was actually talking about how we went on a family holiday and how exhausting it was. Okay. It was really funny because anyway, in my head, I'm like, you're going to get a lot of criticism, Rachel, like I was prepared for. Well, there was criticism, but it wasn't what I expected. It was and it really threw me. I'm going to be honest, guys. It really threw me. I was like, and to the point, and actually when I looked, there were like 70 comments, and most of them were completely positive and in agreement. There was about 4 comments that weren't, and they were ugly and they were mean. And where do you think my focus went? It went on those 4 comments. And I had to really sit with it, pray into it, but also just go, where your focus goes, your energy flows. Where your focus goes, your future goes. Because I realized, I was like, those are not my women. They are not the ones I heard from. There was another comment going, I feel seen. Thank you for sharing this. And I was like, they're the ones I'm here for. So ladies, you are never going to please everyone. And that's not the first time I've had criticism, but it was the first time. It was such an ugly, I was just going, this is not nice. What is up with these trolls? But it would be so easy for me to say, I'm not going to write about this stuff again because blah, blah, blah. But actually it helps people. And yet there are always going to be people who disagree with you, but we got to focus on the ones God has called us to serve and show up for. And yeah.
That is so good, Rachel. I mean, it just brings to mind, I've been reading through the Gospels again, like really intentionally looking at the communication style of Jesus. And, some things we forget that when Jesus was speaking, there were many people who criticized him, who didn't like him, who tried to kill him, to the extreme in terms of before the time. But he kept speaking. He kept showing up. He kept going forward in the mission that he had on the earth. And he was a man on the earth. He was a human with the empowerment of the Holy Spirit, just like us. We're human with the empowerment of the Holy Spirit. And what I hear you saying is that, yes, all those things are going to happen. But if you keep your focus on what is it that God has called me to do, I know the people who are meant to hear it will be drawn to it. The others, I don't want to give energy to.
It's so true. And I love that you said that. And I was actually talking about this the other day with some family members. And I said, Jesus was the best marketer ever. He really knew how to communicate in the way that the audience would understand the parables, the, language of the agriculture, because, a lot of these people were farmers. And I love how he'd say, he who hears can understand. Basically, if you get this, you'll get it, but the rest of you won't. And that's okay. And you're right. He didn't stop talking. He didn't stop speaking, even though he knew there were enemies in the crowd. There were people that were plotting to do things to him. And in a more, if I may bring it down to a more practical sense in terms of, the world we live in, Winston Churchill was heavily criticized. He had more enemies than he had friends. And I love his quote is, you have enemies, great, it means you stood for something. And he is now seen as, one of the best, negotiators, peacetime keepers. He wasn't at the time. Everyone thought he was crazy. Everyone thought he was doing the work, and he had to hold that space. And, during that time when literally it was a life and death situation and, during wartime. And so, and the other thing, and I think, again, I keep coming back to this lesson, and we'll, just like the Israelites, we'll keep coming back to whatever that is for us that God needs to teach us. One is surrender for me. I'll just put it out there. I'm not that great at surrendering. I love holding things and controlling. And then I get to a point, God's like, you ready to surrender that now and let me do what I can do? Are you ready to let me? So I'm like, fine, I'll let it go. I'm so tired anyway.
Like a little kid, right? Holding on to that little toy or something. You're like,
It's true. It's true. Whether it was like, oh, this is the program I'm just obsessed with. And he's like, yeah, I know that, but it's time to put that down now. It's time to, or let me take it to the next level. It's okay. You don't have to keep striving, keep going. There's a part of us that, I believe in a season of hustle. People talk about they're saying the hustle culture is toxic. It is not toxic. It's not. But you have to, there's a season for it. There's a season for everything. There's a season for rest. There's a season for, we can't live in it. And this is hard for me as a type A gal who loves to do and go and achieve, because I can very easily get my identity and my worth wrapped up in that. But if you will just literally give the talents that you have, whatever it is. And what I love about the media is that there's so many different opportunities now. It's not just the 6 p.m. bulletin or the 12 p.m. There are like thousands of media outlets that are looking for someone like you, who has your message, who has your experience. Whether you're a mother who's just a natural mother and people always come to you for advice, you've got a blog you can write for a mother publication. If you're a health coach, if you're someone who had a really horrible experience, in a relationship or in a career, there are places that would love to hear from you for that. Or if you do have if you're a business that, you provide strategy or consulting, there's literally places for you. And one of the things I hear a lot of women saying is, well, I haven't made enough in my business, or I haven't been in it long enough. Basically, I'm not enough. I haven't done enough, or I'm not enough yet. That is not true. That is not true. And I can say this with complete conviction, knowing that I was able to write for the Huffington Post while I was working full time, and I had no business idea or anything like that. And that one win shifted everything for me. And so what I would say to women is, media will give you 3 things. Okay. The first is confidence. It gave me such incredible confidence. All of a sudden I could see what was possible. Number 2, it will give you credibility. Before people buy anything, they need to know, like, and trust you. When someone goes on your website or social media and they see media logos, automatically the trust factor has increased dramatically. So you're shortening the process of people needing to know, like, and trust you, because credible media has given you some credibility there. And last but not least, it will give you clients. It's another funnel for your business, and it's a free funnel. Okay. You do not have to pay for it. I'm talking about earned media coverage. So, an organic media. And it's an amazing thing that you could literally, in 10 minutes a day, you could pitch yourself to media outlets before you've had your morning coffee, or like I do while I'm having my morning coffee. And you can, so it's an amazing thing to do. And it's more about, and I think sometimes, kind of like when you think you can lose 40 pounds, of course you could lose 40 pounds in 2 months if you wanted to. You'd be miserable though, but you could probably do it. But it's about creating a body of work and investing in the journey. Because this is the other thing I talked before about having a divine media moment. Well, you need to be prepared for that moment. And if you're not, the foundation of you telling your story, and I thank God I haven't, been on the Today Show yet, kind of thing, because literally you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that if you've only done like one interview with your local newspaper. You need the experience to get to the point where you're so confident in your message. And when people see you, they go, oh, I know who she is, because I've seen it the other way as well. People completely, flatlining during that interview, not getting their message across, being flustered. And you've got that, there's literally one shot, guys, like in Hamilton, I'm not going to miss my shot. But that shot starts when you are willing to engage, whether it's with local media or with blogs, or even just going live on platforms that you've never done before. That is where your visibility journey starts.
Wow. So I love that about the opportunity, or I forget how you said that there, but in terms of the readiness, being ready. One of my mentors, and I repeat this all the time, for those who listen to me, you're going to hear it again, is don't just get ready, stay ready. And what that means is don't just wait for the opportunity to come to try and get ready, because often we get stressed out. And a lot of women, unfortunately, actually push that because they don't feel ready, and they miss the opportunity. But what Rachel is saying, and what my mentor said, is take the time now. Begin to get clear, or begin to share your message, do whatever. If it's writing, it's speaking, whatever medium, and maybe you can shed some light on that, how to actually use those God-given talents today. But as you are in that process, and I love what you said, Rachel, it's so true. Sometimes we just have an inkling, but as we step into it and we respond to that, and keep moving forward, it becomes clearer and clearer and clearer by the people that come, that are gravitating towards whatever it is we're saying, the message. And then we begin to say, oh yeah, we begin to have that inner knowing. This is the mission. This is the message. You want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I love it. I think, first of all, there's no money in the middle. Giving, and it actually can be very intimidating because I love to be encouraging. I don't want to be political. I don't want to be, I don't want to be offensive, but I do have some very strong ideas and opinions. And when you state those ideas and beliefs, and it could be something simple about the coaching industry, or it could be about, something you've noticed, you will get mixed reactions, but you also get the right people coming to you. And I say the right people,
Yes.
the right people that you're kind of meant for. So don't stay, number one is don't stay away from your opinions. Don't just try and be the nice, encouraging person all the time. You need to state an opinion. There is no money in the middle. People won't pay you for being in the middle, is what I would say, just practically. And yeah, in terms of just, marketing your business, kind of where do you start? It can be, the first thing I say is you need to create a media vision. So people come in, I want to be featured in the media. Well, what media do you want to be featured in? How will you have known that you have made it, to that media mountain? I call it media mountain. And, kind of the top is thought leadership. You've become a thought leader when the media start to call you, when they want your advice. And that's where I want every woman to get to, where the media is calling Lisa because they want to know, okay, how can we get, how can women become paid speakers? Well, we're going to call Lisa because she's the top of her game in that field. And, but you've got to start where you're at. But number one, get a media vision. What are the top 10 places that you want to be seen at? Create a vision board on Canva. If you don't know yet, start there. How do you start there? Go and look at people you admire. Where have they been featured? What media outlets do you look at and go, oh, wow, that's me? Those are the, the type of content they have. That's the kind of stuff that I love hearing about and talking about and reading about, or my clients engage with these type of media outlets. So, when it comes to engaging with media, the first thing I'd ask someone is, what is your media goal? What is your goal for this? And people might go, I don't know. And I'm like, well, is it just do you want more subscribers to your channel or more, people in your email list? Then you want to make sure that you're going where those people are. Is it just to give you credibility? I've had clients before go, you know what? I actually need a green card, and they need a portfolio to show me that literally that you are a celebrity in your field. So I'm going, okay, let's go places that you could potentially get a magazine cover in. So it depends on what your goal is as to what that next step should be. For most people, they would say, oh, it's to actually add more people to my funnel. Well, if that's the case, you want to make sure that you're interviewing the people or asking the question to your communities or to your clients, what media do you engage with? And you'd be surprised. I thought I knew. For some people, it's Instagram channels. Oh, I only get my stuff from Instagram. For some people, it might be mainstream newspapers, or it might be the local magazine at the coffee shop, which seems to be, I think people are surprised at how powerful and effective those are. It's something that people wouldn't really go, oh, local media. No. Very powerful. If you are a speaker or you're someone who holds events, I would not dismiss your local magazines or your local newspapers. They are powerful, powerful things. So I had a gentleman reach out to me on Pinterest or Etsy. I think it was Etsy. And he said, oh, can I get a copy of your book for my daughter? And you're like, how did you find me? Why did you? And he said, I saw you in a local newspaper. And this was a local newspaper that I did a couple of years ago from my hometown, which for me was that was on my media vision board. And I've been featured in national publications, but I wanted to be featured in something called the Union Recorder, which was a newspaper I grew up with. And it was like a big milestone for me. And he said, I saw you there and I thought my daughter would love your book. And I remember just sitting there and going, you never know. So you never know where your presence will be of greatest impact. And it's not your job to figure that out, by the way. But yes, someone said, just take a step. Please don't ignore it. And by the way, guys, if you're like, okay, Rachel, I don't know how to do it, go and grab your local newspaper or look online, and it will say there's an About Us page, there's a submissions page, there's a Contact Us page. Okay. They will have the editorial contacts for you to pitch yourself to. That is literally where you start. It's not crazy hard. So just to put that out there.
So good. Just a little story around that. The last time you and I were on, last time I interviewed you, were talking a bit about that. And I actually went to my local newspaper. I live in a small town. And I got the editor's email, and I emailed them and say, hey, this is who I am. I'm wondering if you'd be interested in, a column. I'd love to talk about that. And they came back, yes, because the thing is, they're always looking for people to write. And so I ended up doing a weekly column for them for years about speaking tips. How about
I
speaking
had
tips?
no
I
idea.
was
Look,
doing
but
the
look at
groceries.
this. Guys,
Yeah.
do you see? She took the step. She took a step, and now she has a featured column. And okay. First, thank you so much for saying that, because you're absolutely right. Media is always looking for content, always. And even if you think you're not a writer, I promise you are. If you can talk, you can write. And it's almost as I started recording conversations with my business buddies because all this amazing content would come out. And I didn't think it was that. I was just being me and talking about what I like, blah, blah, blah. And so I just want to say, you have no idea. Yes, they're always looking for content, and there's so many different ways you can position yourself. But you just go, would you like a column? Would you, I have a blog. Would you, that I could talk about a few things? Are you interested? And I'll say one more thing, just about a bit of my journey. I'd started this online business, which was going really well, but we moved when I became pregnant with my son. We moved from London back to Australia. I had a kid. I'm a mother, felt completely lost in my identity. What am I doing with my life? What's going to happen with my business? What about my dreams? I had a, complete meltdown in terms, one night, and it was like, I think he was 4 or 5 months old. And I'm like having a moment with God of, why would you ask me to do all of this if I had to just put it down? And I was really having a moment. And I heard something so clear. And I don't say this never happens, but it was such clarity. He said, pitch a show to Rema. Now, Rema was a Christian radio station, and Rachel had never done any Christian media at this point. I was like, I ain't a Christian coach. What are you talking about? I was not in the Christian sector. I've never fit in the Christian places. I'm always too worldly for them, and I'm too Christian-y for the world. I was always in between, so I just accepted I never belonged. And I thought, what would I have to say to them? I am sitting here breastfeeding my baby, I'm in my maternity clothes. I don't know what to say. And in that moment, I knew exactly what it was. And it was this idea of coffee and faith. And so I drafted an email. I didn't send it because it was 2 a.m. And the next morning I got up and I was like, yeah, this makes sense. So I found the email of the content director. And I said, I have this idea of this program, and it's for women. And I really just want to encourage women. Would you like to hear more? And a week later, yes, come in for an interview, come in for a meeting. I'm wearing maternity clothes because I couldn't fit into anything. And I had this program idea, and it was Coffee and Faith. And that was over 4 years ago. Yeah, 3 years ago now. And I've been on the air. And to be honest, I don't get paid for doing that, but it's something that God put on my heart. And if I had not have done that and followed that lead, I wouldn't have had the opportunities I have now. I'm now a published author. I'm now on the radio. I've, had speaking events from doing that. And so God has a place for you. He really does. But you've got to be willing to step out and feel foolish. You've got to be willing to step out and feel foolish, because I felt foolish many, many a times. And again, I'll just say this, guys, I've never fit in anywhere. And that's okay. You don't, because you will always fit in with God. And I'll say this, I do believe this. The longer that you really lean into him and what he has for you, the lonelier it can be. Mm-hmm. And I really just think that's part of the journey. And it doesn't mean, I'm very fortunate and blessed to have a few women in my life who I really lean in with and stuff. But those are the people I share my pearls with, And I just think, please, while it's wonderful to have groups and networks and besties and all that kind of stuff, it's so important. Jesus spent a lot of his time alone. He had people he was close to. He had his disciples, but he really only had a couple of people in that inner circle that he really leaned in with and really trusted with. Mm-hmm. And more often than not, he would have to break away so that he could commune with his Father, because that's really where our heart should be. And if your heart is there first, number one, your focus will be on exactly what it needs to be. And it won't be so hurtful when you do get those comments like I did. It won't throw you off your game when you realize you're not doing it for them. You're doing it for him. And the people that he has called you to serve, they need you. And for some reason, only you can share. Let me tell you something. A lot of what I say, you could Google a lot of it. Okay? It's not that. Can I just be real with you? This isn't magic that I'm sharing with you. I do have expertise, but this isn't magic. But there's a way I communicate it that some women need to hear. And it's the same with Lisa. There's a way she communicates the kingdom message that you can only hear from her. And it's the same for you, lady. There are women or people or children or whoever it is that can only hear your message from you. And that's why someone like Joyce Meyer was so powerful. She could speak specifically to people who'd gone through what she went through, and her, she said grew up with child abuse. And when she started talking about it, it's amazing how God can use anything. It doesn't mean that it's good that it happened, but what it does mean is that he will use all things for good. And I'm a testament to that personally, but I can also say how faithful he is. We are willing to step out. And all I can do, I look back at my report cards and we're laughing. Rachel talks a lot. She won't stop talking. And I'm like, joke's on you guys. I get paid for it now. Woo-woo. You know, but it's like she just won't stop talking, and she loves writing and reading. And yeah, that's my thing. If you look back early on into what you're obsessed with as a kid, it probably has a lot to do with what God's calling you to now.
So good. That's so good. I love that. Well, Rachel, it has been such a joy to have you today. And thank you so much for, again, this early morning for you, 7 a.m. in the morning in Australia, spending this time with these lovely ladies. And I know that they are taking away nuggets of gold, but I really feel the empowerment that you have expressed today to these women. So I'm going to share just where you can contact Rachel, because you're going to want to get her become a media magnet. Let me just put it up here on the screen.
Thank you. Oh, beautiful. Yes, it's lifeonherterms.net. It's a free download. So ladies, if you want to know what the next step is, it's this. Download the list. It has over 100 media outlets that are looking for women just like you. There's even a faith section if you want to talk in the faith state, but also mainstream. So depending on whatever industry you're in, there's a place for you. They are looking for content from you, and that is where you should start. So it is so beautiful. And you haven't created that media vision list, that's a great place to start.
Yes, it is. And it's a wonderful, wonderful.
Oh, so printed out.
It's got like so much information in there. You definitely want to go and download that and check her out. And thank you so much, Rachel. And I just want to bless you and your family. And may you have a beautiful Sunday in Australia today. And thank you for being faithful and showing up and saying yes to God wherever you are.
It's my absolute pleasure. It's been an absolute honor joining and, sharing some stuff. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, Lisa. Thank you, ladies, for joining. Lisa is so committed. Like, she is so committed, and her heart is literally for impact and for sharing kingdom impact. And it is so unusual because it's not easy committing to these type of things, a 28-day challenge, when we've got the life on that we do and the mothering that we do and all the commitments we have as women. But I think Lisa is just a wonderful example of showing up and giving what you can where you're at. You don't have to do, hours and hours of things, but, start with that list and see where it takes you. Highlight some things and go, okay, God, pray into it. God, where are you calling me to? And I promise you, he's going to give you that next step. But it's your job to follow it up. Don't be like, I'm waiting for God to give me a download. He doesn't work that way. He waits for you to take a step, and he will bless it or he will redirect. That is the only way I've known he has worked. That is the only experience I can speak of. But I'm telling you, just follow someone like Lisa, who is literally, she's got a heart for the kingdom. She's got a heart for helping women share their message, because this is your time. This is the Esther time, and the time of woman is now. Everything that had happened, everything that our grandmothers and great-grandmothers and all the women before us had to suffer through and lose and to really fight that we have today, this is the correction time. That is what is happening. So you do not need to. So I promise you, and I can say this, I'm going to get emotional because I have the most wonderful women in my life. I've done the most amazing things, and I'm standing on their goodness. I'm standing on their faithfulness, and so are you. So you step out.
Wow. Thank you so much. What a powerful word of exhortation and truth. Thank you so much, Rachel. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And make sure you tune in. We've got 3 more days, and you do not want to miss the finale of this challenge for sure. But bless you, everyone, and make sure you check out Rachel's Media Magnet resource that she has. That you're going to be this 100 media outlets looking to feature your story and expertise. She's done the work for you, ladies.
It's all there. It's all there. We worked really hard. Yeah.
You just got to now follow up. Faith without works is action. Faith without action is dead. You got to take action. Right. Bless you, ladies. Today is a new day for you to become fearless. So we look forward to seeing you tomorrow.